I feel quite emotionally wound up, even though I'm so familiar with what's going on right now. As Tim mentioned right at the beginning, next Friday, this initiative will be showing an exhibition of political prisoners from history outside Southwark Crown Court. And I just want to say a few words in my allotted time about why it's so important to connect with this history. Right now, the state seems to be succeeding, not just in criminalising climate and other protesters, but also in marginalising them, making it really seem as though it is so extreme to take this kind of non-violent action, making it seem outrageous to care so much that you're prepared to disrupt others' lives. But what I want to mention is that we can see from history that it's those who are prepared to take these kind of risks and go to prison for non-violent protest that are actually acting in line with important truths that we take now as basis for our own moral judgments. So we can see that obviously from the suffragettes and the civil rights movement, where those standing up for key rights that are now completely accepted were then marginalized and criminalized. And I've been thinking a lot about this recently because I've been looking into my own family history. My father, Nicholas Walter, was imprisoned in 1967. He took part in a totally peaceful protest. He interrupted a church service when Harold Wilson and George Brown were speaking in order to protest their government's support for the Vietnam War. Wilson's government didn't actually send troops to Vietnam, as I'm sure you know, but it did provide aid of other sorts, including that vital diplomatic support and covert military aid. So I think there are parallels with what we're seeing today with Palestine. And the levels of public protest at the time were vital in ensuring that the British government kept out of sending more direct military support. So at the time, my father stood up in the church and he said, "Hypocrites, how can you use the word of God to justify your policies?" And he was sent to prison for a month for that moment of truth-telling. So he was marginalized. He was seen as extreme at the time. But I think most people would now agree that those young people who kept Britain out of complicity in that criminal war were morally right. In a very different context, my grandfather was a political prisoner in the 1930s. He was German, he was Jewish, and he was a communist. After Hitler came to power, the Communist Party was outlawed, and he was arrested in July 1933 on his way to a political meeting. He was imprisoned for 3 years. Now, I'm not trying to compare in any way what he went through then to what we're facing in Britain today. But when I think about him and his extreme experiences, it reminds me that we mustn't be too quick to dismiss the prisoner as the outlaw and the crank. And when we think about who we should be listening to at times of great moral challenge, we shouldn't be too quick to cede our judgment to the judgment of the state or the court. So I just wanted to bring those examples from my family history here today, really to say that I feel when we're facing big moral challenges, it's down to each of us to consider the rights and wrongs for ourselves. And we are currently facing these huge moral challenges about how we respond to the climate and nature crisis, how we respond to what's happening in Palestine. These crises that are already causing so much suffering and are likely to create so much more suffering. And at this time, I think those who have taken a stand on the streets may well be a better moral guide than so many who will never be put on trial. Thank you.